The throne room aboard Syrinx now shimmered with restrained elegance. Light refracted through tall panes of crystalline glass, casting geometric shadows across the floor. Everything was clean, symmetrical, calm, just as it should be. Just as Princess Alexa Vejanar needed it to be. She stood at the center of it all, composed in her imperial gown, shoulders drawn back like a blade held in tension. Her people were watching, if not with their eyes, then with their expectations. The humans were arriving. She did not flinch when the polished floor vibrated, a low tremor radiating up her legs. Their ship had docked. Alexa's internal rhythm stuttered. She reset it with a breath. "Your Radiance," her steward murmured, bowing low. "The Terran escort detail has arrived. Per agreement, one will remain with you during summit procedures." Her eyes narrowed. "I did not consent to that. The Council did. Security precautions." She turned away from him and toward the grand doors. They parted with a hiss. The air that swept in was colder, heavier somehow, like something feral had entered a temple. 6 Terran soldiers marched in. Their armor was black and dull, patterned with scratches like old battle maps. They carried themselves like they expected violence. But it wasn't the formation that caught her attention. It was the figure at the rear. He did not wear a helmet. The scars on his face were jagged, honest. His eyes were unblinking, unreadable. He stood taller than the others, broader too. Armor clung to him like part of his skin, not equipment. Where the others looked trained, he looked weathered. The soldier beside him stepped forward. Commander Rian Holt, assigned to Her Radiance's personal protection under Article 7 of the Joint Accord. Alexa stared at the human warrior. He didn't bow, didn't lower his eyes. He just watched her, as if waiting for her to flinch. She didn't. But something inside her tilted. "I was under the impression a diplomatic escort would be diplomatic," she said coolly. Rian shrugged. "Guess there was a mix-up. You stand in the heart of an imperial chamber, and you shrug. I could salute if it would help." She narrowed her eyes. "It would not." His gaze swept the room, unimpressed. "Didn't think so." Her steward shifted beside her, uncomfortable. Alexa gestured him away with a flick of her fingers. She stepped forward, slowly, like descending into a wild enclosure. "Commander Holt," she said, each syllable crisp, "you will maintain 6 paces of distance, speak only when addressed, and refrain from breathing too loudly in my presence." A pause. "I'll manage 2 out of 3. A flicker of something, perhaps amusement, touched the corner of his mouth, then vanished. Alexa turned her back on him, her expression fixed in royal neutrality. The doors closed behind the soldiers. Later, alone in her private spire overlooking the station's exterior curve, Alexa stood in thought. Beyond the glass, the stars burned quietly, indifferent. Below them, the Terran warship hung like a shadow stitched into space. She didn't hear Rian approach, but she sensed him. "I requested privacy," she said without turning. "I ignored it." She turned slowly. "Is this how humans earn trust? By intrusion?" "I'm not here to earn anything," he said. "I'm here to keep you breathing." Alexa folded her arms, her voice low and sharp. "Your kind believes violence solves every threat." He didn't blink. "Sometimes it does. And when it doesn't, we survive anyway." Her expression didn't change, but her tone cooled further. "That's not strength. That's desperation." "I won't argue," Rian said. "Desperation kept us alive when the Zerian Empire bombed our colony moons." She stiffened. "That conflict was retaliation. Your people." "Spare me the history lesson. I've heard both versions. Watched friends melt in both." Silence. It pressed in between them like the vacuum outside. "You were in the war," she said quietly. He nodded once. Clyther Ridge. 60 hours of hand-to-hand. Lost half my unit before we even reached cover. Alexa didn't respond. She remembered Clyther. The Geryan victors called it strategic containment. The humans called it a massacre. And now, one of its survivors stood in her chamber, appointed to protect her. "I don't trust you," she said. "I'm not asking you to." She took a step forward, studying him. "Why accept this post, then? Surely your pride chafes at being assigned to someone you likely despise. You are not the enemy anymore." "That doesn't answer my question." "No," he said. "It doesn't." 3 decks below, behind locked command terminals, General Corinth Jalrak watched the interaction play out via security feed. His angular Geryan features were pulled tight with disdain. "The human contaminates her already," he said, voice like crystal under pressure. Beside him, a technician adjusted display settings. "She should fear him, not speak." "She will," Corinth muttered. "Soon enough." His hand hovered over a control pad, where a schematic of the central power chamber glowed in blue lines. A timer began to blink, quietly, discreetly. "Let the summit begin. Let the Terrans believe they've earned peace." He smiled, thin and cold. "And then let it burn." Alexa didn't sleep that night. She stood in silence beneath the stars, arms wrapped behind her back, eyes unfocused. Somewhere below her, a human she didn't understand stood ready to die for her. She didn't believe in instinct. Her entire life was trained response. But something about Rian Holt unsettled her logic. He had not bowed. He had not postured. He had not lied. And for reasons she could not yet name, that disturbed her more than anything else. The day began with silence. Not the kind Alexa was used to, ceremonial, composed, respectful. No, this silence was dense, unnatural, a quiet charged with everything left unsaid. Rian Holt walked behind her, his footsteps soft but inescapable. He wasn't 6 paces back, as she had ordered. He was 4, maybe 3, close enough for her to hear him breathe. She chose not to comment. They walked the upper diplomatic ring, a corridor of polished crystal arches with views of the planetary system below. Sunlight filtered through radiation shielding, casting gold lines across the walls. Everything was designed to evoke serenity. It failed. Alexa halted at a node station and turned. "I gave specific instructions regarding your distance." Rian leaned against a column. "And if I'd followed them, I wouldn't be between you and that shadow 2 meters to your left." She blinked, turned. "A maintenance drone, nothing more." "I don't fear drones," she said. "No," he agreed. "You fear unpredictability." Her jaw tightened. "Your presence is what's unpredictable." "Then it's working." Alexa moved on without another word. An hour later, she sat in the negotiation chamber, listening to recycled phrases about mutual benefit and shared futures. The human delegate, an aging ambassador named Rallis, spoke with careful optimism. The Zerian council responded with rehearsed courtesy. But Alexa wasn't listening anymore. She could feel him standing behind her. Not breathing heavily. Not fidgeting. Just present. Solid. A wall of flesh and armor. She couldn't ignore how much safer she felt, and how much that thought infuriated her. When the session adjourned, she slipped into the side corridor alone. Or almost alone. "You are not required to follow me now," she said. Rian kept walking. She stopped. "Is this deliberate defiance or simply ignorance?" "Neither," he said. "It's awareness." She turned fully to face him. "Do you think me incapable of protecting myself?" "I think you live among people who smile while hiding knives." Alexa's lips parted, offended. "That's a human perspective." "It's a soldier's." "You presume far too much." He shrugged. Observation isn't presumption. Her voice lowered. I don't need your insight. You might, he said quietly, before this is over. Later, she sat in her private chamber, reviewing summit protocols. The text blurred. Her thoughts wandered. The image of Clyther Ridge flickered in her mind, a battle long buried, until Rienholt had casually named it. She opened a secure file. Surveillance footage. She watched a recording from earlier that day, camera perched in a corner above her throne. There he was again, Holt, just behind her. Still, calm. Watching everyone, not just her. It unsettled her how easily he seemed to exist inside enemy walls. No, not enemy. Not anymore. That was the point of all this, wasn't it? Meanwhile, in the station's engineering deck, General Corient oversaw his agentsa. Technicians in unmarked suits moved with precision, working under the guise of diagnostics. Tamper logs. Corient asked. Erased. And the pulse relay. Armed. Minimal trigger, heat spike or biofeedback loop. Corient smiled thinly. Excellent. When the moment comes, let the humans look like the monsters they truly are. Back in her meditation space, Alexa finally spoke first. You fought on Clyther. You lost men. Rian didn't react. Yes. And you didn't hate us for it. His voice was quiet. I hated the orders. Yours. Mine. Sam's sickness, different uniforms. That's an odd answer. No, it's an honest one. She studied him closely. You are not what I expected. Good. Why? Because expectations get people killed. Her fingers tapped once against her palm. What do you expect from me? He hesitated. Then, I expect you'll try to stay calm when everything goes to hell. She stared. How poetic. Not really, he said. It's practical. The next morning, Alexa was summoned early. She dressed in formal attire, white and silver layered with Jerian sigils. Her hair, bound in metallic threads, caught the ambient light as she moved. Rian waited outside her door. You didn't knock, she said. I listened, he replied. Didn't hear armor shifting. Figured you weren't ready. That's a curious method. He looked at her, eyes steady. It's what I used to survive behind enemy lines. You were a saboteur. Scout. Infiltration. Close recon. And now a glorified bodyguard. He smirked faintly. We all get promoted eventually. They walked to the summit together. This time, she didn't ask him to stay back. In the meeting chamber, just before entering, Alexa paused. Do you believe peace is possible? She asked suddenly. He didn't answer at first. Then, if it isn't, I'll make sure you live long enough to prove me wrong. That was not the answer she had expected. On the other side of the station, Corient stared at a countdown. 36 hours until detonation. It would be subtle, contained, blameable. All it required was one moment of chaos, one flicker of doubt, one Terran mistake. And with a human assigned to the Jerian princess, that moment was guaranteed. That night, as lights dimmed across Serix Nor, Alexa sat on the edge of her chamber's lounge, staring at her reflection. She saw herself. Regal. Composed. Measured. But something was shifting beneath the surface. Not fear. Not curiosity. Something older. Something dangerous. She reached for the panel beside her seat and activated private security protocols. Override, she said. Code required. The AI intoned. Weijan R7. Full access. I want everything on Commander Rienholt. No redactions. The screen lit up. A long list of missions. battle records, commendations, injuries, survivor tags. She scrolled, then stopped. A field report from Clytha. Extracted alone. Recovered 8 wounded. No backup. 5 Zarians surrendered to him. None executed. She closed the file, sat in silence, and didn't know what to think. The explosion wasn't loud. It was worse than that, sharp, surgical, and fast. A single tremor beneath the council chamber's marble-like floors. Decorative glass ruptured in perfect silence, fracturing from ceiling to base in spiderwebbed lines. The diplomats, seated in high arc crescents, froze. For a second, no one reacted. Then the walls screamed. An emergency klaxon pulsed across the chamber. Steel shutters slammed over the stained glass skylights. Floor panels shifted, locking into defensive configuration. Atmosphere scrubbers hissed on. Princess Alexa stood before her seat, her jaw tight, eyes scanning. Rian was already moving. He pulled her down behind the diplomatic lectern, one arm shielding her body. "Stay low. I am not a soldier. I know. Do it anyway." She didn't argue. Across the room, the Jerian ambassador to Earth clutched his chest, wounded. One of the human delegates helped him down, while security bots scanned for threats. No enemies appeared. Localized blast, Alexa muttered. No projectile. No breach. Sabotage, Rian confirmed. Pre-planted. She turned toward him. Who would risk detonating a bomb in a peace summit? The ones who can't afford peace. Her face darkened. He tapped his comm. Halt to Serik's command. Confirm chamber lockdown. Any other impacts? A pause. Then static. No response. He frowned. Comms are being jammed. You were certain. Which part of scout infiltration didn't register? A small smile twitched at the edge of her mouth. Fine. Assume this is an attempt to fracture trust between our factions. It worked. Everyone's already staring at me like I lit the fuse. They stood. All eyes turned toward them. Ambassador Raleigh pointed. Where was your man when it happened, Princess? Rian didn't speak. Alexa did. Protecting me, as assigned. You'd be wise not to assume guilt without proof. Proof? Snapped the Jerian War Secretary. The only human allowed this close to our inner circle is the only one standing after a detonation. And yet I am also unharmed, Alexa said coldly. Her tone cut through the room. Enough, she added. This summit will not dissolve into accusations and blood. We are not primitives. Then what are we, Princess? Asked General Corinth as he entered through the side doors, expression unreadable. Victims of human treachery. Victims of someone else's plot, Rian said before Alexa could. Corinth's eyes sharpened on him. And you would know this. Rian stepped forward, slow, deliberate. Because this kind of attack doesn't aim to kill. It aims to divide. You scatter your leaders, raise your shields, point fingers, and someone else, somewhere in the dark, wins. I find your insight convenient. You'll find me inconvenient long before I'm convenient, General, Rian replied, calm and razor-edged. Alexa watched them, something shifting in her gaze. Enough, she said again, firmer. We will clear the chamber. Secure all entrances. No one leaves the station without authorization. Rian will assist my personal security. Corinth, you will not interfere. The general's brow twitched. You place trust in a human soldier. I place trust in a man I've observed under pressure. More than I can say for some born to my own bloodline. Corinth said nothing. He bowed stiffly and left. Back in her private command room, Alexa reviewed security feeds. Dozens of angels. None helpful. The detonation had been too clean, just enough to sow fear, not enough to leave trace. Rian stood behind her, arms folded, watching as if piecing a puzzle without touching it. She glanced at him. You think this is only the beginning? I know it is. And the goal? War. Or at least, the illusion of inevitability. If either side believes this alliance is poisoned, they'll back out before the ink dries. She turned in her chair. You know how Zarians think. I know how generals think. You've got Corianth in your inner circle. That man would burn 1,000 innocents to keep his military relevance. I've begun to suspect the Sam. He hesitated. Then you also suspect this wasn't human. She stood. I suspect timing. I suspect strategy. And I suspect whoever planted that charge wanted you blamed. Wouldn't be the first time I wore a target. She took a breath. I want you to investigate it quietly. Off the station's record grid. If we announce a probe, we'll lose whoever's feeding information to the saboteur. You are authorizing me to go dark. I'm authorizing you to hunt. That night, Serik's No's central hallways were silent again, but it was a thinner silence, like ice cracking underfoot. Rian moved like a shadow through the mechanical arteries of the station. He bypassed key locks, ducked drones, rerouted motion sensors. His HUD picked up trace radiation, the kind used in precision plasma triggers. Faint. Directional. Not human tech. He followed it past the engineering wing, deeper than the summit guests were ever meant to see. Finally, he found it. A relay embedded into the cooling systems. Masked as maintenance hardware. The signature matched nothing in Terran databases. He tapped his comm, knowing it wouldn't connect, then pulled out a microcore recorder. He scanned it. Catalogued the make. Not Terran. Not Jarian. Then someone behind him cocked a weapon. He turned slowly. A Jarian guard. Off-duty uniform. No insignia. Eyes Jew calm. Drop it, the guard said. Not yours to defend, Rian replied. I said drop it. Rian's fingers flexed once. Then, like lightning, he lunged. They crashed against the wall, weapon clattering. The Jarian drew a blade, too slow. Rian slammed him into the console, twisted the arm, disarmed the knife. Who sent you? The guard spat blood. You were too late. They've already chosen who dies next. Rian froze. Then the guard activated a concealed patch on his sleeve. A pulse of light. Self-immolation tech. The body was ash before Rian could react. He stepped back, chest heaving. Someone was willing to die just to keep the next target hidden. And whoever they weren't working alone. Back in her quarters, Alexa sat at her desk, waiting. The minutes ticked. Then her comm blinked. One word. Confirmed. She exhaled slowly. It had begun. And this time, she wasn't afraid. She was angry. The body was gone by the time Rian returned to the cooling chamber. Gone. Clean. Like it had never existed. Even the relay was missing. Not sloppy. Professional. He crouched near the wall panel where the guard had been incinerated. Ash remained, but it had been swept into a tight line, not scattered. Someone had returned, not to investigate, but to erase. That meant access. Security override. Possibly someone inside Alexa's own staff. Rian tapped his recorder. Target eliminated. Evidence scrubbed. This isn't sabotage anymore. It's coordination. He rose, jaw tight. Back near the guest quarters, Alexa waited in a shadowed alcove beside a disused service elevator. She wore no crown, no visible sigil of her title, just a black half-cloak over her tunic. The hallway lights reflected off her silver collar plate like a dagger's edge. Report. she said without greeting. Rian gave it. Precise. Everything from the radiation trace to the self-immolation. Alexa didn't blink. So whoever planted the bomb knew they'd be hunted. They planned for it. The relay wasn't human. Not Jerian either. You are saying there's a third party. I'm saying there's someone who benefits from peace failing and war starting, and they're willing to kill to get it. Her lips thinned. And they've infiltrated our summit. Rian glanced around. Probably more than one. Hours later, the summit resumed, but it was colder now. Trust had fractured. The Zerian delegation had doubled its internal security. Human diplomats moved in pairs. Even the neutral species, silent observers from the fringe colonies, looked unsettled. The explosion hadn't broken the summit. It had poisoned it. Alexa stood before the United Council, poised and sharp. We now know the detonation was a targeted manipulation, she said, her voice carrying across the high-vaulted chamber. Its purpose was to fracture unity. It will not succeed. The human diplomat, Councillor Reeves, leaned forward. With respect, Princess, no suspects have been named. Alexa met his eyes. Because the suspect does not belong to either delegation. A murmur swept through the chamber. Unsubstantiated, Reeves pressed. If your own guard was attacked. He wasn't attacked, she said. He was ambushed after locating a planted relay using non-Terran, non-Jerian tech. The one man who could answer for it self-immolated using alien compression fire. That silenced the room. Compression fire is banned across every civilized world, murmured a neutral arbiter. Even fringe warlords won't use it. Which narrows the list of suspects, Alexa said. But not to either of our governments. General Corianth, seated at the edge, shifted. Or, he said slowly, this is a false flag operation by humans, blaming a fictional third party to avoid penalty. Rian didn't flinch. The only flag I carry is survival, and your war just became someone else's weapon. Corianth's eyes burned. You overstep. Alexa cut in. He does not. You do. Her voice sliced clean. She turned to the council. I propose a joint investigation team, Terran and Jerian. One scout from each side. No advisors. No bureaucrats. Full autonomy. Unprecedented, Reeves muttered. Necessary, Alexa replied. I volunteer myself. Rian raised a brow. You are serious? She didn't look at him. Do you object? I object to suicide missions, he muttered, and to royalty pretending to be immune from assassination. Your concern is noted. Council silence followed. Then, slowly, one by one, delegates nodded. Approved, said the head arbiter. Effective immediately. 2 hours later, they stood in a small jumpcraft in the hangar bay. Black hull. No identifying marks. Scanners scrubbed. Life support self-contained. The only signal it would emit was a deadman ping if both passengers flatlined. Rian stared at the flight console. Where to? Alexa keyed in coordinates. Grave Point, she said. His eyes snapped to her. The shipyard planet. She nodded. A decommissioned satellite went missing from there a month ago. Sam radiation trace. That world is unpatrolled. No government jurisdiction. Exactly. He stared at her a moment. You are not like other royals. And you are not like other humans. They launched. Grave Point orbited a dead star. Once, it had been a thriving dry dock for warships, Jerian and Terran vessels alike. After the treaty, it had become a rusting memorial to obsolete violence. Now, it was haunted. As the jumpcraft descended into orbit, Grave Point's broken skeleton loomed, hulks of warships suspended in orbital drift. Shattered hulls glinted in the pale light of the dwarf sun. Stray signals pinged faintly, remnants of scavenger drones and ghost code. Alexa narrowed her eyes. There, she pointed. 12 degrees west. A signal masking field. Rian adjusted course. The ship slid into Gravepoint's dark side. The masking field shimmered, almost invisible, but definitely artificial. They passed through and saw it. A vessel. New. Predatory. Smooth hull. Unmarked. It wasn't in any registry. It pulsed faintly like it breathed. Not Terran, Rian said. And not Jarian. They docked silently on its underbelly. Inside, the corridors were oddly shaped, too wide, too smooth. No angular construction. The lights were bioreactive, flickering on only when the sensors recognized their heat signatures. The air was filtered, but had a sterile, mechanical bite to it. They moved carefully, pistols drawn. No resistance. No crew. Just empty silence and humming walls. Until they reached the command node. A massive dome with a single black core in the center. Holograms flickered around it. War zones. Political charts. Both Terran and Jarian leaders displayed on rotating orbs. Target markers. Battle projections. And one image at the center. Alexa's face. Below it, a status. Neutralize within 72 hours. Rian's jaw clenched. They're not just playing us against each other. They're choosing who survives. Alexa stared. And I'm in their way. From behind, a door hissed open. They spun. A figure stepped through. Not Jarian. Not Terran. Taller than both. Armored in bone-white plating, segmented like a deep-sea creature. Its voice echoed in layered tones. You were not meant to arrive so soon. Alexa raised her weapon. Then your clock runs faster than expected. The creature tilted its head. Neither of your species will survive what comes. Rian didn't wait. He fired. The shot bounced off a kinetic shield. The creature vanished in a shimmer O. Rian had seen detonations before. Nuclear tests, kinetic rod strikes, cities collapsing under orbital bombardment. But the explosion that consumed the alien vessel above Gravepoint burned into his memory differently. It wasn't the fire. It was what it meant. Proof. Not of Jarian sabotage. Not Terran treachery. But of a third power, hidden and organized, manipulating both sides with surgical precision. As the blast faded, Alexa leaned forward, eyes sharp. Now we go back, she said. Rian kept the ship steady. We go back and say what? We found a ghost ship and a projection told us you're all targets. They'll call it propaganda. We bring the proof with us. He turned. We didn't recover anything. I did. She unfastened a small data spike from her collar plate and slotted it into the nav console. A flicker. Then holograms lit the cabin, images pulled from the alien ship's core. Timelines. Infiltration charts. Assassination plans. They weren't just watching Terrans and Zarians. They were embedded inside. Rian stared at a labeled image. A Jarian council member, circled in red, listed as compromised. This is more than sabotage. They're not starting a war, Alexa said. They're replacing us. The return jump brought them to Summit Station in the middle of a lockdown. Jarian forces had seized control of half the docking rings, claiming breach of treaty. Human forces responded with orbital blockade threats. Neutral observers had already begun evacuating. The fragile peace was cracking. We don't go through the front, Rian said, eyes on the scan. Too hot. Alexa didn't hesitate. We go straight to the council chamber. Now. I hope you like crawling. They slipped through a disused engineering shaft, filtered air stale and warm, the hum of failing power conduits vibrating through the narrow corridor. Alexa moved with a precision that surprised Rian. No hesitation, no wasted motion. This wasn't just a politician. She'd trained for worse. "I thought princesses had bodyguards," he muttered. "I was taught to never need them," she replied. Rian gave a small grunt of approval. "Remind me never to piss off your side of the empire." Inside the Central Council chamber, chaos reigned. Jarian delegates accused the Terrans of violating their neutrality pact. Human advisors threatened to walk out of the treaty entirely. The chief arbiter had collapsed under the pressure, and now everyone was shouting over everyone else. Then the chamber doors slammed open. Alexa entered, head held high, followed by Rian with a plasma rifle across his chest. The noise died. "What is the meaning of this?" one of the Jarian generals snapped. Alexa strode forward, inserted the data spike into the master projection table, and stepped back. "Silence," she commanded. The lights dimmed. The chamber filled with alien intelligence. Holograms bloomed around them, unknown ships, biological encryption signatures, visual evidence of the third faction manipulating comms and erasing Agenza. A playback of the Bona Mode being's warning echoed. "Neither of your species will survive what comes." Councillor Reeves paled. Corianth narrowed his eyes. "This isn't Terran tech," Corianth growled. "And not Jarian either," Reeves admitted. The room froze. "This is a manufactured war," Alexa said. "Engineered from the shadows. Every delay, every sabotage, every assassination, meant to pit us against each other until we were too weakened to resist occupation." "You have no idea how deep this runs," Rian added. "We saw infiltration files. People in this room are compromised. You think you are arguing for your side. You are arguing for your destroyers." Silence again. Then, from the back of the room, a sudden screech. One of the interpreters convulsed. His eyes went black. He reached for his belt. Rian didn't hesitate. One shot. Clean. The man dropped, a concealed detonation device clattering beside him. Reeves exhaled. "That proves it." "No," Alexa said coldly. "That proves we're out of time." Within the hour, Summit Station entered Emergency Unification Protocol. It hadn't been used in 70 years. Terran and Jarian fleets dropped hostilities under shared command. Shipboard AI cores were scrubbed for latent control signals. Joint strike teams formed. The priority became global: identify, isolate, and eradicate the infiltrators. They called the enemy Nulkin, a term found embedded in corrupted relay transmissions. A species, maybe. A synthetic organism. Or something older, born from a dead sector of space humanity never charted. The only certainty was this: they had no diplomacy. Only cycles. Infiltrate. Divide. Replace. And they were nearly complete. In the central war room, Alexa and Rian stood over the tactical table. Star maps shifted, red zones pulsing across systems near Gravepoint. At least a dozen known colonies were infected, governments compromised, media controlled, uprisings seeded. "How far are we willing to go?" Reeves asked. Alexa's voice didn't waver. "As far as it takes." Corianth nodded slowly. "Unity under threat of extinction. I never thought I'd see the day." "You won't if we hesitate," Rian said. They coordinated the first retaliatory strike, an orbital cleansing sweep of a station overtaken by Nulkin proxies. It would mean civilian casualties. Alexa paused, then gave the order. Later, in the quiet of the upper observatory, Alexa stood alone. Rian joined her, leaning beside the wide viewpane. Below them, warships assembled in formation, Terran black beside Jarian crimson. Together. "You sure you're ready for this?" he asked. Alexa didn't look at him. "I was born for peace. Now I have to master war." He studied her expression, composed, but tired. We could have walked away, he said. Let the species destroy each other. But then nothing changes, she murmured. He handed her a flask. To changing everything, then. She took a sip. And to surviving it. The first joint fleet departed an hour later. Behind them, Summit Station broadcast a single unified signal to every colony, every world. We stand together. We will not be replaced.